Hey everyone, it's Grayson here. If you haven't watched my debate with Robert Sungenis, where he literally ran away within the first 3 to 4 minutes of our open discussion portion because I said that geocentrism was silly, you should check it out. It's definitely worth a watch. Very hilarious. In fact, even Robert Sungenis is still talking about it in his most recent debate.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some debate opponents that. What was the other guy, Donnie? I had to leave the debate. He was just so. What would you call that? I still think about him from time to time.
Well, Robert, it is adorable that you still think about me. A little weird as well. For the record, I don't think about you at all. But I did watch this recent debate of yours, and I was very disappointed in you for repeating the same old tired arguments that I wanted to address in our debate. But as soon as you heard that I knew what I was talking about and knew the weaknesses in your argument, you decided to make an excuse and run away. So I didn't get the opportunity to actually go through and systematically debunk all your very silly ideas. So that's what I plan to do in this video. Fundamentally, the core of Robert's entire argument is simply abusing the principle of relativity. So let me unpack what I mean by that. The principle of relativity states that the laws of physics are the same in all inertial frames of reference. So an inertial frame of reference is something like the Earth, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, a train moving at a constant velocity, a person falling at terminal velocity. All of these can be inertial frames of reference, and you can calculate the laws of physics for the universe with them as your frame of reference. And the laws of physics will be the same in all situations. The principle of relativity states that there is no absolute frame of reference and that all motions are relative. Now, Robert likes to abuse the principle of relativity by stating that, oh, well, then we can simply declare that the Earth is the absolute inertial frame of reference, which it very, very clearly explicitly states in the principle of relativity that you cannot do that. There is no absolute frame of reference. It's all relative. That's the principle of relativity. But Robert likes to argue that because we can make the Earth our frame of reference, that somehow magically means that it is the absolute truth of the world, when we can do the exact same thing for Mars, the Sun, Jupiter, any planet or star, a person falling at terminal velocity, a train or a car moving at a constant speed. All of these are fundamentally kinematically equivalent within the principle of relativity. So Robert can't just simply declare that the Earth is. It's a little like if you take a model of the solar system where you have a camera recording the whole thing as it moves around, and the camera is fixed on the location of the sun. Now, if you were to take that same apparatus, and instead of having the camera that's looking down onto this model, if you were just to move it so that the camera is continuously moving with the Earth, but from the perspective of the camera, the Earth is fixed in the center of view. Well, that's all that Robert is doing. And you notice that in these two situations, you've moved the camera from the sun to the Earth, but you haven't changed anything about the model itself. This is analogous to, in the principle of relativity, when you're switching your inertial frames of reference. All you're doing is moving the camera around. You're not changing anything about the model or how the planets and the sun are all moving in relation to each other. All you're doing is changing your perspective. And that's literally all Robert's done. His real argument is biblical. The only reason why he's saying that the Earth is the absolute reference frame is because of Bible verses. That's fundamentally it. So that is what I asked Robert about in this most recent debate in the Q&A section. And it is clear that he actually has been thinking about me and our debate last time, because in the previous debate I had with him, he was fundamentally unequipped to answer this question. Instead of answering it, he decided to run away. But now I can tell that it's been gnawing at him. It's been eating at him. He's been thinking about me in that debate a lot, and he has formulated a response. So let's take a listen to a little bit of it and hear how it goes.
Let's see the question here. It might be more of a statement. The principle of relativity applies to all planets, not just Earth. So your argument for geocentrism is biblical rather than physical, since the physics applies to every planet. Any thoughts on that, Robert?
Yeah, we've already talked about this. So he must not have seen the debate, because we agree that you could put Jupiter in the center and figure it out mathematically that everything would go around Jupiter. Okay. So what we have accomplished in this debate then is to say it's possible that the Earth is in the center and not moving, and scientific.
No, Robert, it's not scientific. As we already went over, the actual principle of relativity states that there is no absolute reference frame. So if you want to declare that the Earth is the absolute reference frame, no, that is not scientific. That is in violation of the principle of relativity, which you yourself are trying to use to justify the Earth being the absolute reference frame. Not scientific at all.
The Earth is in the center and not moving, and scientific. Okay. The next question is, after we've resolved the resolution, what steps do we take to show that it's not Jupiter, that the Earth is in the center? Well, we've had all kinds of experiments. We've had the Arago experiments as what was that? 1810 was the first one. He found that the Earth wasn't moving.
No, Robert. The Arago experiment showed that the Earth is not moving through the ether. You need to finish that sentence. You can't just say, it shows the Earth is not moving. You cannot leave out the very crucial detail that it's not moving through the ether. Arago's experiment is known as one of the very earliest experiments to disprove the ether. Okay? Like, it's not a big mystery. This is published science. For you to leave out the ether in this is exactly what I accused you of in our debate, and you got mad at me for saying that, of course I don't leave out the ether. You literally just did. And you will continue to do that every time.
He found that the Earth wasn't moving when he could measure the starlight coming to Earth. You had the George Bedell Airy experiment in 1871, where he used two telescopes, one filled with water, one filled with air, to measure the starlight coming from one star. He found, they call it Airy's failure, because he couldn't prove that the Earth was moving.
Once again, he couldn't prove that the Earth was moving through the ether. Robert, stop leaving that part out. It is incredibly crucial. He gets mad at me when I accuse him of leaving that part out, and yet he continues to do it over and over and over. You have to admit, it's moving through the ether. That is what George Bedell Airy was testing. You can go and read his paper yourself. He is testing the undulatory theory of light. That is the theory that was in the 19th century, that the medium that light moved through was the ether. That is part of the undulatory theory of light. That is what Airy failed to demonstrate in his experiment. He failed to demonstrate the movement of the Earth through the ether. Don't let me catch you leaving that part out again, Robert. It's incredibly crucial.
Okay. Then you had Michelson-Morley come along, 1881, 1887, 1897. He did it again. And then he found another partner. Morley and Miller did experiments in 1904 to 1908. And then Miller did them on his own from 1908 to 1928. And the last one you had was Joos, Joos, in 1930. So basically you had almost 100 years of experiments that showed, okay, so what planet is in the center? And it showed that the Earth was in the center. Now, granted, there are a lot of people that, oh, well, I don't agree with that, and here's the reason why, and blah, 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 blah. But they could show that at least we had evidence that it was the Earth that was in the center, because they couldn't measure the revolution of the Earth around the sun with their very sensitive interferometers. Okay.
He's just never going to stop. He's just going to continue to say that all these experiments failed to show the movement of the Earth, when very explicitly, in all of the experimental papers, they all clearly say that they're trying to measure the movement of the Earth through the ether. It's even in the title of Michelson-Morley. Dayton Miller and all those other guys were trying to measure the ether drag as the Earth revolves around the sun through the ether. That is the crucial part of what they were testing. It is so beyond disingenuous of Robert to continually try to push this idea that these experiments somehow demonstrate that the Earth does not revolve around the sun or doesn't move. It's just a complete lie by omission, because he is omitting the crucial detail, the most crucial detail, that they're testing the existence of ether in these experiments.
Now, the question you would have to answer, though, is why Michelson-Morley or any interferometer experiment that's supposed to be measuring the revolution around the sun of the Earth is not getting what it needs.
For the millionth time, Robert, it's because there's no such thing as ether.
But the Michelson-Gale experiment gets a full rotation when it uses the same apparatus, same principle. Everything's the same, except it's just turned around. The apparatus is turned around. Why is that?
The reason for the difference between the Michelson-Morley interferometry experiment and the Michelson-Gale-Pearson experiment is because the Gale-Pearson experiment was measuring the Sonia effect, which is what you observe whenever you are testing an interferometer in a rotating frame of reference. You can experimentally test this. The Sonia effect is very real. GPS satellites have to incorporate it in their calculations. The Sonia effect actually shows that the Earth is rotating. The reason why Michelson-Morley did not detect it is because it was looking for the ether drag as the Earth revolved, not rotates. The Gale-Pearson experiment was measuring the rotation of the Earth, and that is why they measured the effect, because it's literally called the Sonia effect. Robert knows this very well, so it's again another disingenuous question on his part. I'm going to let Robert have a chance to try and explain what he thinks that the ether is, considering that every single one of his arguments so far that the Earth is stationary and not moving and is the center of the universe has relied on the existence of ether. Let's see if Robert can explain what this ether is and how we know it exists.
So what they have in quantum mechanics now is the fact that if you get down to the lowest order of substance, you end up at 10 to the minus 35 meters as the length of those particles, whatever they are.
Oh my God, the amount of stupidity here, it hurts. It hurts palpably. Literally all of what he just said is completely wrong. The Planck length is not the lowest order of substance, it's the lowest meaningful length of space. And there's no particle that is the Planck length. I mean, that's not a part of the standard model of physics. That's not a part of any confirmed theory of physics. There's no Planck particle, okay? It's the Planck length, and the Planck length is derived from like 3 constants. The c, the speed of light, the reduced Planck's constant, h bar, and the gravitational constant, big G. With those 3 constants, which are all verified empirically, you can calculate a Planck length. It has nothing to do with any lowest order of substance or any Planck particle that has the diameter of a Planck length. All of that is complete and utter hokum nonsense. And it's honestly astounding that, I don't know what Robert read about quantum physics, but how anybody can misunderstand quantum physics to this degree is just, it's mind-blowing.
Those particles, whatever they are. That's all we've gotten in science so far. We can't go any further. Okay. So it's either going to be that or something similar to that. But we do know this. that nothing doesn't exist. So you can't look out into space and say, oh, there's nothing there. No, there is something there, because if it was nothing, then all those celestial bodies would coalesce with the Earth and we'd be one big ball. Okay? There's got to be something between the Earth and the moon, or the Earth and the sun. And we say, okay, that's filled with this quantum mechanical ether, whatever you want to call it. It has to be something. That's all we know.
Yes, nothing cannot exist. Space is not nothing, right? We've known this for a long time. We know about vacuum fluctuations. These are not nothing. They pervade all of space, and they are, crucially, for Robert's argument, not ether. And you cannot equate quantum vacuum fluctuations to ether, which is what Robert's trying to get away with right here, but you can't do that. Quantum fluctuations do not provide an absolute framework of space. That's what ether was supposed to be. Ether was supposed to be the medium from which light travels through. Well, vacuum fluctuations do not impede the speed of light. Okay? There is no equivalence between the 19th century conception of a luminiferous ether, which is what all of those experiments that Robert ran through were designed to test, and they debunked. All those experiments showed that the luminiferous ether of the 19th century does not exist. And yet, Robert is trying to redefine what the ether is to try to make it seem like quantum vacuum fluctuations are the same thing as ether, when just substantively, meaningfully, they are not. They are two completely separate things, and you cannot equate the two, because the vacuum fluctuations are not able to provide you an absolute frame of reference. They don't produce any of the results that would be necessary for the ether that any of those 19th century experiments were designed to test. They have completely different physical properties between the ether and vacuum fluctuations. So Robert is just, again, being very misleading, trying to equate the two.
And then you have stuff like I put in my movie, where the microwave background radiation, the CMB, they call it. They've had 3 experiments now, 1990, 2001, and 2009. All 3 of them came back with the same evidence that showed that the microwave radiation is oriented around the ecliptic between the sun and the earth, as opposed to any other part of the universe.
No, Robert, that is not what they showed. I mean, I shouldn't even be surprised anymore that he's lying about science, but it somehow continues to surprise me. The axis of evil, as this anisotropy is sometimes colloquially referred to, is not even agreed to exist among the experts. It appears in 1 or 2 of the polarities out of several thousands of which it does not appear to exist in our measurements of the cosmic microwave background. It's an anisotropy that can, 1, have several other meanings and is sometimes correlated with galactic spins in 2 different hemispheres of the cosmic microwave background. In other readings, it doesn't even show up in studies of the isotropy of the cosmic microwave background. There is no consensus about whether or not this axis even actually exists, or is just an artifact of our measurement or some kind of aberration. Again, there is no consensus, but even when it's taken to exist, there are several cosmological models that explain its existence, as well as the galactic spins. He said that it doesn't align with anything other than the ecliptic of our sun and earth. That's not true, because it also seems to align with the overall patterns of galactic spins in the universe. So again, it's falsehood after falsehood after falsehood with this guy.
That the microwave radiation is oriented around the ecliptic between the sun and the earth, as opposed to any other part of the universe. Now, how can that be if we're not special? That somehow the creator oriented everything that shows that this ancient microwave is centered around the earth. Okay, so we have evidence. Now, granted, there's other people who are going to come along. Well, I can explain it this way or that way, but look, at least we have the evidence. There it is. Interpret it as you will, but it shows that the possibility that the earth is there is pretty great.
Okay, so I just had to laugh when Robert was talking about this microwave that's centered around the Earth. I mean, truly hilarious. He means microwave background, but all right, we can forgive the hilarious semantics there and just get down to what he has actually said in this response, right? He said that because none of these experiments showed that the Earth is moving through the ether, which absolutely none of consensus physics would expect us to find, because in the consensus physics, the ether doesn't exist. So obviously, we should not see experiments that show that the Earth moves through a non existent medium, the ether, right? He tried to say that the ether was the same thing as quantum vacuum fluctuations, which we know is completely fallacious, and the two are not equivalent at all. And then he tried to talk to the cosmic microwave up in the sky, right? And say that how else could this occur unless we were special and created at the center of the universe? But there are several cosmological models that explain exactly why the universe would have an axis in the cosmic microwave background. So, again, none of this was evidence that the Earth is the center of the universe. None of this was evidence that the Earth is stationary. None of this was evidence that the ether exists. So, at least Robert had an answer this time and didn't just run away from the question. He actually made an attempt to answer it. It was a dishonest attempt. It abused scientific principles and it completely lied about scientific findings. But at least it was an answer this time. One that I have easily debunked and which I would really like to talk to Robert about, because he's got some explaining to do if he tries to use any of these very silly arguments in an honest debate with someone that knows what they're talking about and can easily shut him down on the actual science that he seems so desperate to misconstrue. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching another debunk of a very silly creationist. And until next time, stay curious and stay learning.